This semester, my classmate Blair and I spent 5 mornings in Miss Amato's 5th grade classroom at New Hope Elementary School. And the times that we were there, we studied the teacher and the students and how they interacted with each other and how the students responded to certain techniques that Miss Amato would use in teaching. So as we were watching the students and the teacher and their interactions, we had this inventory that we were given that we went through and saw questions about how the classroom was, and we would watch the classroom and watch the students and everything, and we would write down things that we noticed, and through this we really got to focus on important questions and see things that we wouldn't have seen otherwise.
For my out-of-school literacy, I decided to try to learn how to read Braille. I thought that this would be really practical for when I'm teaching. If I have any blind students, that it would be helpful for me to know how they read. And I also have a friend, a little girl that goes to my church. Her name is Charlotte. She's blind, and so to start this project off, I spent a little while watching her read Braille and type Braille and see how she uses her fingers to read it, and I just thought that was really interesting how her fingers, the sensitivity in her fingers, let her read these bumps, and I thought that was pretty cool.
And the way that we put this into practice was we did a read aloud with some of the kids in the class. We did this 2 different times. Each time we got 3 or 4 of the kids in the class and got them to come over to us to the reading corner, and we would have a book and we would read it in a circle. I would read a page and the next kid would read a page, and it went around like that, and it was very interesting watching to see how the kids knew what to do or didn't know what to do. It was just a very interesting thing that really shed a lot of light on how kids learn and how kids read and how they respond to things from adults and teachers.
So Braille is just the alphabet, and numbers and punctuation marks each have their own set of bumps, and the bumps are like in 2 columns of 3 each. So depending on what combination of them are raised, and you feel them, or for me, just see them, you know what letter or number or symbol it is.
So doing this read aloud, we really wanted to see certain things about what it meant to do this literacy event and what the texts are and how you can be fluent in this literacy and questions like that. And so we analyzed it and thought about different questions and different meanings of the different words and how these kids responded to us and to the book and to each other as they read it.
So once I finished learning the alphabet, I was like, oh, this is great, I've got this, I know the whole alphabet, I can read Braille now. Turns out that's not how all Braille is written. Braille is written with tons of contractions. There are so many contractions. I can't do this.
So the text in this literacy event was the book and the words in the book that we read together.
So in reading Braille, it's important to know what the texts are and like what it means to do literacy when reading Braille. And the texts of it are the Braille books and all of the sets of these 6 dots, 6 bumps. That's what the text is. You just have to know how to read those and memorize what each one of them means.
As far as who controlled it, I controlled it in that I chose the book, but then the kids really controlled it in that they were holding the book when they were reading, and they could read it with whatever inflection they wanted.
For each person that's learning Braille, they would be the controller of the text. They would have it in their hands. They would be looking at it themselves and applying what they memorized or figured out to what was in front of them.
One thing we wanted to know is how do you code break in this type of literacy event, and if you don't understand something, if the student was reading and they didn't know what a word was or what a concept was, what would happen? And it seemed like when that happened, they would use context clues and just figure out what was going on. They would watch each other and they would hear the parts of the story that their classmates had read, and that would make sense in the part that they were reading. They weren't just reading one page by themselves. They were figuring it out as they listened to each other.
As far as code breaking goes, once you get to something that you don't understand, you may just have to figure it out the way that I did with the letters in the book, or ask somebody. And really, it's all about practice and memorization. So if you don't know, you just ask somebody.
In order to be fluent in this literacy event, I believe that you have to understand how to read when it's your turn and to listen to the others when it's their turn, and to figure out how each person reading, how all that fits together into one story.
To get fluent, I'm so far from fluent, but I assume to get fluent, all you gotta do is practice, 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 practice. How can they tell? How can they tell and do it so fast? And it's even more different between blind people and people that are not blind, because blind people can read it with their fingers, because their fingers are incredibly sensitive. Amazing finger sensitivity. I would never ever be able to. I have no idea. Maybe if I went really slow, but I've seen there's some blind people can just like read like that. I don't understand. Yeah, it's impressive.
I can't wait to do read alouds in my classroom.
If you can read Braille, props to you. I'm gonna keep trying. I've really enjoyed learning what I have so far, and I'm gonna keep going, but props to you.